So I have a couple of admissions to make.
Okay.
First of all,
Go on.
I've never been in a co-living thing.
Okay.
I'm like a big fan of co-living.
Yeah.
But I've never been in one.
Okay. So you like the concept, but you haven't.
Yeah. So I don't think it matters that I've never been in one.
No, I don't think it was either. No,
because I'm in my 40s. I'm not the target demographic for co-living, but I've been arguing with policymakers and with people who are like, co-living is a great thing. Co-living is a great thing. It should. But I've never been in one. Sorry. So I forgot to introduce you. So Peter, who are you?
So I am the co-founder of Lucas Capital and Grayling Properties. I suppose I started my work journey after coming out of finance in UCC and doing the year in Australia and not really knowing what I wanted to do. But luckily I got working in stockbroking with Goodbody's, Ridgely and Davy. And that's a great job, I think, for a young person that's interested in, the world, economics, investment, because I was an analyst covering hotels and property, then in equity sales. And effectively from, the age of 23, I got to travel North America, London, Europe, meeting some of the smartest people in investing and learned a lot from just even listening to them. And then, you gain your own confidence in these things and your own ideas, and you start trying to pitch ideas to people. And that's an important part of, building your confidence in your ideas, etc. And that very much then led on to where I've ended up, co-founding Lucas Capital, 2012, 2013 in Ireland, understanding economics, understanding the stock market, investment, gave myself and my co-founder, Tim Cal, the confidence to go out and invest in the property market. Now, we knew plenty about investment, not plenty, but we felt comfortable in investment back then. We saw it as an investment. As you will know more than any, there's a lot more to property than that, but it's better to be lucky than good, and timing is everything. So that was a great entry point. And we really built Lucas Capital out of that, which is a business very much originally focused on residential sort of affordable city centre, micro apartments. We saw a great opportunity in retrofitting older pre-63 buildings. We've done over 1,000 of them. And, at that time, like there was only 1,500 to 1,000 apartments being built in Dublin. Yeah. In Ireland, actually. So we saw, the influx of young people into Dublin, driven by the multinational sector. I thought, well, these people have nowhere to live. There's all these, a lot of them vacant at the time, pre-63 buildings in rag order. Why cannot we, deep retrofit them and provide an affordable solution to all these young people coming to Dublin, or being drawn to Dublin by the job opportunities? So that was really kind of, our starting point. That was a very successful strategy. We exited 2 portfolios of that. Bain Capital were great to back us at the time on that and building out those portfolios. I suppose we got deeper into that. Residential property is very, operational. And if your operations, as you will know as well, if your operational side is not right, you can seriously devalue an asset. You can really drive value by operating them properly. So any outsourced providers, we just felt we could do a better job. So we set up Grayling Properties, which is our operating platform, which is, everything from lease up to management to maintenance to, in our co-living developments, we hire everyone from the concierge through to the cleaners directly. Yeah. And that's to drive operation performance, but also service levels to make, the people we were talking about earlier, happy living in a place like Ratmine's house. Like the minute you outsource, I think you just lose a bit of control in terms of customer service.
Well, there's a different, because we, as you know, we do exactly the same thing on our resi side, and it's not hassle free, right? To run an operational business like that, where you're hiring the people and dealing with people, is not easy. But at least everyone's pulling in the same direction. I find that when you see the outsourcing, the way that's done, like it becomes a commoditized business really quickly. Yes. And it's just about like fulfilling the contract. No one really cares. Right? Yeah.
And it's literally, that's my job description, and even for the person providing the service. Yeah. And actually a good example of that was, so I should mention Ger, actually, who runs Ratmine's house, who comes from a hospitality background. And he's been fantastic. When he came in, we're not outsourcing anything. He was like, if I'm running this, I'm hiring everyone directly. But it also allows for great flexibility, but you won't get off an outsourcing. No. So we found that, it's been a better way to run our assets. And I think we've done a good job. When assets have traded, we've stayed with them. We haven't lost an asset to a trade yet, which I think shows that we do provide those levels of service, and we've won third-party business as well. So yeah, that's been sort of our journey to date. That knowledge of young professional market, which we gained through the pre-63s, made the move into co-living sort of a natural move for us.
Because the and for people who are listening that they hear pre-63, maybe they're younger, they don't know what that is. In 1963, the Planning Act was brought in, or as Tom Phillips would point out to me, the Planning and Development Act, because it's not just about planning. And before that, you didn't need planning permission to do anything in Ireland.
That's correct, yeah.
Which is hard to believe, but it's true. So a lot of big, primarily Georgian houses were subdivided in the period before 1963 into what were bedsits, very small apartments that had shared kitchens and sometimes shared bathrooms. My old man lived in a few of them when he was up here as a bricklayer, when he was starting out. And for the most part, wouldn't have been a whole lot of maintenance, wouldn't have been a whole lot of looking after them. But it was cheap accommodation, and it
absolutely served a purpose.
A purpose at the time. Everyone refers to them as pre-63 because obviously you wouldn't be allowed to do that now. But because they were done before, they were left that way, and they are permissible still, despite, I think, was it John Gorman? Someone tried to ban them.
Well, they did effectively remove bedsits, which were an early substandard form of...
So they're the ones that didn't have like kitchens or...
Exactly.
Yeah, they were literally a bedroom.
They were literally a bedroom with a shared... you have to, under the standards in rental accommodation, you have to have everything contained within the unit.
Okay. So your pre-63s now are essentially like studios, apartments?
1 beds, 2 beds, yeah.
Yeah.
But they'd all be classified on the continent as micro apartments.
Because of their floor area?
Because of floor area. Okay. So studio, 21 square metres on average, 1 bed, 29, and a 2 bed, sort of 40 square metres.
Okay. And when, because you've exited that business now, right?
Well, we've exited the development side of...
Right, but the management side of it, you still...
Exactly.
You still do.
And we manage third party as well.
Okay. That. So that, and I know you'll see where I'm going with this. Occupancy levels in that, how are they?
Oh, very strong, yeah. Like as you'd expect across most rental accommodation in Dublin.
But there's massive demand for that kind of, even though it's small.
Yes. Yeah. And it plays a similar role, particularly the studios, maybe not the 1 beds and 2 beds, but the studios play a similar enough role to our portfolio does anyway, to co-living. It's generally in Dublin 6, so it's well located, okay, our portfolio. And I'm sorry, we manage stuff in north side of Dublin, well, it's just very well. So again, it's that landing pad for a lot of people. Yeah. It's professionally managed by us. The moving process is simple, all that. So it does, and then people land in, it's near their work, and then they go from there.
Yeah, like so it fills a niche.
Fills a niche, exactly. Yeah. So you'd have high churn rates in that as well.
Yeah.
Sort of, 40% a year.
Yeah.
So it's a high churn business, but it fills a niche at a certain age of life where people just want well located, as cheap as they can find accommodation. And in good nick, obviously, good condition.
And look, some older people listen to this and go pre-60. It's not that. Like these are nice. Yes. You've done a nice job on these.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're good. But like that, what it kind of irks me, right? We were talking earlier about me supporting the co-living thing, and why is it okay to have pre-63 studios and not okay for co-living? Yeah,
well, first thing is you'd highlighted it's grandfathered because it's that pre-63 designation. Yeah. So something that had planning, you can't take away that planning even if the planning law changes.
Right, yeah.
But really, co-living became a political football, right? It became a populist political football.
I think there's a lot of disinformation about this.
Yes.
You tell me what co-living is.
Yeah, so like co-living is community-based, high-density city centre living, and very much, as we've discussed, really focused on young professionals who are relocating nationally or internationally.
Okay.
That's the idea of the product. We have, by the way, and I should just throw this in, we have a retired lady living in Rathmine's house, and she just wanted a community.
Yeah.
She didn't want all the trappings of a house and possessions and all that, and just wanted to simplify her life, but also wanted to be surrounded by young people, and have a community around her. There was a couple who were traveling Europe and wanted a base that took a studio for 6 months.
The first person that I met who lived in one actually works here, and she lives in your co-living
fantastic.
thing in Rathmines house.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And we hired her. Well, how long is she here? Like 6 weeks? Yeah. She won't mind. She's from America, and her and her husband up sticks from America like 6 weeks ago and just moved to Ireland. Sold their house, sold their dog, sold their everything, just moved to Ireland. And we're like, well, where are we going to live? And so they went online, they found Rathmines house, and they're like, this is absolutely perfect. And they are looking to, they want to buy a house, but
that they're the exact people, to a degree, maybe people slightly younger, but that person who's relocating and hitting a new city and wants that, well managed community environment, they are exactly the target market.
Right.
So I'm delighted in a number of fronts. Number one, when they went looking, they found us. Yeah. So that means my marketing are doing a good job. Yeah. And number two, that they're really enjoying the experience. Yeah. And you don't expect them to stay. Like, a year would be, we have people who've renewed and gone into their second year. Yeah. But your average would be, like, for us anyway, it's about 11 months, which I think is about right. Yeah. I think some people are a bit too short, because you are creating a community, and it's hard to get people to know each other if people are leaving every week or there for a few days, Yeah.
Do you have a person on a desk? Yeah. At the front. I mean,
you land. There's a concierge. There's a gym. There's a social network. Yeah. You don't have to worry about, how do I get electricity? How do I sign up for a TV package? How do I sign up for internet? Yeah. Where do I get my plates and cups and whatever goes with moving. Yeah. But also, like, when you move to a new city, you can read all the reviews you want, but how do you know what neighborhood will really suit you?
No, you don't.
So, like, with co-living in particular, I think with Rathmines house, you land into a pretty cool area. It's very close to CBD. You get all those advantages, and you get to kind of suck it and see, do I like this area? Weekends you can move around a bit. We actually do even tours at the weekends.
She said that,
yeah. So people get to know the local area, get to know outside of Dublin, up into Dublin Mountains, Glendalough, etc. So it gives them a real feel for the city and the area, and then they can kind of go, when we were down in Wicklow, I really liked that, so maybe we'll move there and get the dart to work. That suits our lifestyle or whatever vibe we like. So I think that is exactly what it's meant to be, and like 70% of our tenants, it's their first time in Dublin. Yeah. So
why 70%?
70%. And so they land, and it just gives them that really easy relocation. Yeah. And then, I think we're doing a very good job. So a lot want to stay longer than you'd expect them to. And that's great as well. I do think it has a very strong place in the market because of those features, which you don't find anywhere else. And you can try and kind of create them, but then it leads to inefficiencies such as house sharing, and people overstaying in apart hotels or what have you, or in hotels.
The product itself, like, let's just look at Rathmines house, because I know you have a couple of them. What are they? Are they all bedrooms with shared kitchens? Do some of them have kitchen? How does that? Yeah.
So, and this is why Rathmines house works as well, by the way. Yeah. And why we have good retention. It's larger, Rathmines house, in terms of unit size. So the average size is 21 square meters. Okay. And then we've 8 square meters per unit of communal and dining space and amenity space. Okay. So that gets you to 29 square meters.
And is that like in a pod? Like, is it like PBSA where it's?
Yeah, it's Rathmines house is a conversion in all office block. So that does lead to odds and ends.
Yeah, no, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but typically you have units, say, or double occupancy for a couple, or 23, 24 square meters, single occupancy, 18 square meters. Okay. And there's bits in the middle as well, but that's your kind of your range, giving your average of 21 and then your 8 square meters of communal space. So they're very much laid out similarly. Like the 23, 24 would have a similar layout, all of them, and the smaller ones would have a similar layout as well. But they all have a kitchenette. Okay. And they all are en suite, obviously. Okay. And then
so the kitchenette has like a little fridge and
so you have a fridge, an oven, a combi oven, so that's a microwave and an oven, and a 2-ring hob.
So you can cook in your own unit if you don't want to use.
That's generally what happens, to be honest with you. Or as Ger would say, the biggest chef is Deliveroo, because they're young people and they're busy and
No, we see that with the apartments too. We nearly need to have a designated
Deliveroo
spot.
The original guidelines push towards this more student thing where you basically have a bedroom really, and then it's clustered around the kitchen that's 6 of each area or whatever, We surveyed our tenants, would you take a bigger unit for less communal dining space? And only 7% said they wouldn't. Given our background in the Georgians, we felt we knew what was the kind of real sweet point in terms of a studio, a small studio, a micro studio, let's call it.
Yeah.
And that's sort of 20 square meters plus, okay?
Right.
So really we focused on getting as many of them as we possibly could into Rathmine's house. Now, the run of windows and the fact that you're in an existing structure obviously means you end up with some smaller ones, which actually has taught us a bit as well, because the ones that went the fastest were the smallest and the biggest, so the best value.
Yeah.
And then
the nicest one.
The nicest.
Yeah.
So if I was doing it again, I would look for some mix of 18 and then 23s. And, if you're doing it in a new build, for example.
A lot of the sort of nonsense political chat about this has been, I heard someone describe it as modern day tenements.
But that's ridiculous. Like the building standards still exist, right? Still exist. So they have to be built to the same standard.
Yeah.
They are just a different mode of accommodation. And the 29 square meters we provide per unit, or say per resident, is actually the same as the 29 meters you get as someone sharing a one bed, for example, of your personal space, if you like. Sorry, this is from the report that the Department of Housing did for
but I'm just doing the sum in my head here because I'm looking at our own units and thinking
20 plus 5 plus 4. I don't know where the 5 plus 4 came from.
I don't know where most of their figures come from, to be honest.
But let's say that they're correct. So or maybe co-living is providing a bit more, but it's just providing it in a more flexible format. And most importantly, and this is really important, a community-based format. Like social isolation is a big issue. Loneliness is a big issue. People do relocate more. They move job more they would have done in the past. And they move to new cities. And this is a great way for them to build that community, build that sense of belonging. And that's what it does provide. And we run community program events, numerous events each week. We have a calendar. If anyone wants to look at it, we throw up on our Instagram, etc., to foster that, and to drive that community engagement and make people feel like they're part of something, but also to give them a Dublin experience. Those tours, etc., whether it's Glendalough or a tour of Dublin City Centre, are all part of that,
Yeah, I mean, the point that you made there about social isolation and community, I don't know if you got a chance. I sent you on the thing about Portaferry, or if you'd seen about Portaferry, about the co-housing thing that they're doing in Northern Ireland. It's not the same thing at all, by the way, but I think it's just interesting that there's a very different attitude outside of Ireland to all this kind of stuff, right? So in the north, Carrie will put up a link to Portaferry. It's where they just sort of saying, well, we're going to build lots of different types of tenures in the one place. So we're going to put old people with young people so that we don't end up with these sort of ghost streets where there's a whole row of houses with 90-year-olds in them. And then the students are somewhere else. The
planning that O'Connell Properties got in Cork, Henry J. Lyons did it, has a similar idea. They're large. They actually can't build it because of planning again. Yeah. The fertilizer business that's in there is meant to move, and they couldn't get planning to move because they have to build a new bridge.
On Ireland.
Yeah, exactly. Because the whole port in Cork is moving down into the harbour, down the river.
Okay.
And it's freeing up a lot of development land in the city itself. But again, it was stage of life. That was their whole planning idea. Why can you not, for example, you have a large site, you want to achieve density, okay? Rather than say just doing all apartments, you could do some more high density co-living or other forms of high density apartments, which might be allowed in the future and are allowed in other countries. But then you could sit them alongside actual family houses. And then you could actually stick in a senior block.
Yeah.
And that's all in one community. You families, 25 to 34-year-olds and say 65 to 80-year-olds.
Yeah. All
living together in age-specific or circumstance-specific housing.
Yeah.
Like we just have such an idea of one size fits all. Like we're all just going to buy something and live in it forever.
Yeah.
But how many, like anyone from when I left Cork and moved to Dublin, I must have lived in about, I'd say 5 different rental properties in about 8 years, Yeah. You move around, you get a promotion. I got a bit more money. I'll get a nicer place. You meet someone, you move in with them. There's so much happens, particularly in that earlier age.
And when you're younger, you want to be with like your mates.
Exactly.
And this is the other thing that drives me insane about this, like co-living. Co-living is happening everywhere in Dublin, but it's just in an old house that has 7 bedrooms.
Yeah.
And these bedrooms are being traded essentially on a grey market.
Yes.
And actually in Rathmines, a group of my friends lived in a house called The Casa. And I don't know how many people lived there over the years, but it was a lot. That's co-living.
Absolutely.
It had one kitchen.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. And wasn't professionally managed and cleaned.
Oh, it was the absolute opposite of being professionally managed, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So this idea that I have it in my notes here, Minister O'Brien's directive restricting, it was a ban.
Yes.
They banned it. They banned it because of political kind of craziness. Like what?
Yeah.
Was there something that happened?
Well, I think Owen Murphy, and he's admitted this himself since, got the PR all wrong. He got very bogged down in it.
Yeah.
He started getting questioned on it, and he was like nearly fighting his corner too much, rather than just being very, guys, this is a stage of life, part of the solution.
Yeah.
It's 0.05% of bed spaces that have got planning in Dublin is for a particular segment of the market. You need to move on. This is what, there's a lot bigger things happening here. But he got very bogged down in fighting it.
Yeah.
And then everyone there was a big pile-on basically, populist pile-on.
It's more that them and us thing, right? Yeah.
Modern day tenements carry on.
Yeah. If a developer wants it, it has to be stopped.
Exactly. Developer agreed. Playing the man, not the ball, the usual carry on.
Yeah.
So, and it was all that. And Darragh O'Brien, when he was in opposition, made hay on that.
Yeah.
And then when he got in, he ordered a report. Now, the report is actually from the Department of Housing is very, there's stuff I would disagree with in it, but it's actually a good report. And it's actually, when you read it, it's clearly pro co-living and it's trying to nudge him that way. And it gives him 4 options, 3 of which are keeping it and with just different bits. 1, it stays where it is and we update the guidelines. 1, we take it out of apartment guidelines and create its own guidelines. And then 1, we just kind of stay silent on it. We remove the guidelines, but we let it up to local authorities. And then number 4, we ban it. And then the second paragraph says, just so you know, Minister, nothing has ever been banned by ministerial order, by ministerial planning guidance.
Yeah.
It's the only thing ever.
Oh, and nuclear power stations.
Nuclear power stations.
Yeah, and co-living. They're the only 2 things.
Yeah. I think nuclear power stations was done legislatively. I'm not sure.
Right, yeah.
But from ministerial order, like ministerial planning guidelines, it is the only thing to have ever been banned. And it was a pure political decision.
What urgent action, right?
And we all, there's a lot of banging on in Ireland and, a lot of it rightly so about that our planning system has to be democratic. What's democratic about one man with a stroke of a pen banning a form of development?
Yeah.
Well,
when people say they want the planning system to be democratic, what they mean is they want it to be, for their opinion, to be, they don't mean it to be democratic.
No, they don't.
Because, we have elections, we elect governments, they appoint planners, they make decisions, and then we just say, but we forget about all that because we're going to have a judge overrule that. Yeah. So there's again one man, and it is almost always a man, by the way, who's just saying no. Yeah. So there's nothing democratic about any of this. And that's just like a veil of bullshit that we...
Absolutely.
It's very true. Consulting. It's absolute nonsense. But okay, it got banned. But before it got banned, there were some planning permissions granted.
There were. Yep.
You guys have Rathmines House. You have another one on Cork Street.
Yeah, Liberty's House. Yeah, which is actually quite close to PC.
Okay. And how many bedrooms is that?
That's 371.
Okay, so is that the biggest one?
It is.
In Dublin, right?
Yeah. We bought that planning. We didn't plan it ourselves.
Okay.
Because we couldn't.
Yeah, right.
They were kind of like hen's teeth at the end. Yeah. It has differences to Rathmines House. It's obviously larger. It's more of all one type, 18 square meters, but it's got a kick-ass ground floor and basement amenity space.
Okay.
Like it's really off the charts. We brought in concrete Amsterdam-based interior architect to work on it.
Okay.
And I think they've done a fantastic job.
Oh, excellent.
It will be, amenity-wise, I think it would set a new...
Okay, and when's that opening?
First resident, 1st of September.
Okay, so very close by.
Yeah.
Try and head over and have a peek at that.
Absolutely. Everyone, by the way, I'd say everyone is welcome to tour any of our assets. We really want to get the word out there.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people come to Rathmines House and go, oh my God, I can't believe it's this nice. Or, this is great. And you're like, what did you think?
Were they shocked that it's not a tenement?
Exactly. Yeah. Do you think there'd be like mold in the floors? And
we must look up who called them tenements, because it was
one councillor.
Was it?
Yeah.
So is that you guys for co-living? Did you have any other ones that were?
Sorry, we'd love to do more, but there's just no plannings out there.
Okay. And so it's past the point now where the plannings are going to be expiring, are they? It's too late to...
Well, there's one above Jervis Street car park, but
God in heaven,
yeah. And actually there's a fantastic one in the Players Factory, but I don't know where that's all left now with the judicial review, etc. And will that get extended, or will they build it? But
right, because they're going to extend the plannings, they said. Yeah. But I guess they won't be extending the co-living plannings.
Yeah, maybe not. I'm not sure. Yeah, but it is very cool. Really high ceiling heights. It's got the big massive windows. It. Probably be an expensive job, and a really cool ground floor area. Like the plans of it are very cool. But we're starting to look abroad now. To be honest with you, we're starting to look in the UK.
And just for the context, there, is it banned anywhere else in Europe?
Oh no, they're embracing it. In fact, it's gone the other way. So it kind of started in the UK. Well, stuff got built in the UK on other plannings, hotel planning, student plannings.
Right. Okay.
Like planning Irish planning is so prescriptive. In other places, it tends not to be as prescriptive. But so in the UK, kind of led it out there in Ireland, in the UK, and it continues to grow in the UK. Madrid has recently brought it in. Now, it was already happening in Madrid, but the local mayor got his arms around and said, right, let's actually put some structure around this. So it's happening in Barcelona, it's happening in Amsterdam, it's happening all over the Nordics, obviously happening in Germany, where they have all types of, they have everything from, senior housing, micro apartments, co-living. They're very open that way. So pretty much the only place that is banned and not happening is Ireland.
Wow. Yeah. So I just, because, and I get criticized for it. I don't want this to turn into like fucking Ireland is.
Yeah.
Even though it is, and we all know that. The economics of it. So, we're we were, the news is out now, apartment developers. The economics of apartment development now are just shot in Ireland. Forget it. You can't do it. They're different for co-living. If we magically got rid of minister's ban, you'd be able to still do it.
Absolutely, yeah.
What's driving that? Is it like pure like revenue per square foot, basically?
Yeah, it's like a student. I know in your recent article you said...
Yeah, we're doing some student stuff now because and we look at that and say, well, actually, it's very similar to an apartment building. It's more like it's an 8-bed apartment.
Yeah.
And, the revenue per square foot is significantly higher as a result of that.
Exactly, yeah. And the revenue per square, you can just rentalize more space.
And no parking and stuff. Like, I guess you guys don't have parking.
Right? Exactly, yeah. That's the main reason. Like your cost is student, and depending, you probably have nicer amenities, student a little bit plus maybe.
Okay.
In terms of your cost per square meter.
Yeah.
But it is exactly that. You can really drive your rent per square foot because it's just a more efficient build. It's kind of... If you look at Rathmines House, you walked onto a corridor in Rathmines House or Liberty's House, you'd think you're standing in a hotel. It's a corridor with doors, and then you have your communal spaces on each floor and your communal space down below.
So that's on a per floor basis that you do the kitchens and stuff and living areas.
Something peculiar to Irish co-living in the main. The UK, they centralise a lot more of that. In Ireland, again, they've this idea around student of clusters, and therefore each cluster must have a kitchen.
But wouldn't it be better if there was one kitchen? Because then there could be like 20 people there. Like, it would be way more fun. Exactly.
And we've ended up in Rathmines House with a lot of space that's underutilized.
Yeah.
So we have these great kitchen lounges on the southwest corner of the building, stacked on top of each other.
Okay.
And they're beautiful spaces, great spaces. But we struggle to activate them. Like we've activated the top floor one because it kind of made into a cocktail lounge vibe, and we have Friday night drinks there and stuff.
Cool, yeah.
So we tried to theme them as we went down. We've one that's got some co-working in it. And then we made one into kind of more of a games room vibe. So we find that we can activate some, but to act like they just all don't get used. You might have one person on one floor at one particular time. Yeah.
And it's probably over provisioned, like all amenity space in Ireland. Like we have this with the apartment buildings too. We've really nice amenities. It's way over provisioned.
Like you've 8 square meters per unit. Like it's a lot. It works a little bit better in Liberty's House because it's bigger. So we have a bigger ground floor area.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of, an open plan ground floor area, which hopefully we will be able to
That'll
activate.
Attract people, right?
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully we can activate that.
Okay.
And as you know, the gym is the most used space.
Yeah. Depending on the day,
yeah, absolutely. And we find that's the one amenity you definitely have to have.
Yeah. But the construction costs are otherwise broadly similar, like per square foot, right, to student.
Yeah,
right?
broadly similar to student.
Yeah.
But it really lends itself to restricted city centre sites. It lends itself to office to resi, which Rathmines House is.
Yeah, because that office to because this is another thing that drives me mad, is people going on about the office to resi, like, we convert them into apartments, affordable houses. Yeah. And talking through their whole.
Absolutely.
Because you can't do it, right? No. Like I don't know how many we looked at. It's just not possible to do it, right? It's not. But it is possible with student. It is possible
in co-living.
With co-living, and it is possible with hotel.
Exactly. And that's why Dublin City is refusing plannings and a number of conversions, trying to get people to do resi.
Yeah.
So the one above the An Post inside in town, which they refused planning.
Yeah.
The developer quite rightly went on board and said, this is zoned for hotels. Why are they not allowed to build a hotel here?
Yeah.
And you can see what Dublin City are trying to push people towards residential, but that doesn't work. You need some pull, and that pull is viability. And you get that through allowing more flexible forms of accommodation.
Because it's a pretty basic thing. Like most office building, like the grid that they're built on doesn't allow you to comply with the guidelines for apartments, right? In terms of aspect.
Dual aspect,
daylight, sunlight. Like you can't do it. You got to cut a hole in the middle of the building.
Yeah.
And then you might as well knock it down, and they won't let you knock it down because of carbon emissions.
Yeah.
So,
it's a bit of a bind.
Chinese finger trap.
Yeah.
So you're going abroad.
We're starting to look.
I saw the other day that you have a UK division now.
Yeah, we've opened the UK office. James Gent, who we used to work with. So myself and Tim found the business, then Dave Hickey joined us.
Yeah.
And Dave was in Goldman, and James used to work with him there. So James has joined us now as well. I'm very excited about that. James is a great guy.
Yeah.
He's got loads of ideas and is getting stuck into them. And one of them is bringing our co-living model and operating platform to the UK.
To the UK and elsewhere, I assume, then after that.
Yeah, I think UK's, we've looked at Madrid previously. It's just language, law, planning, bit of a leap for us.
Yeah. No habla español. No. you have to learn. I mean, it's the thing. It's not that simple in Europe.
No,
because once you leave the UK, things are quite different.
Yes,
we found that too. Looking abroad, and you go,
yeah. So look, I think that's definitely an option in the future, and possibly like we kind of skirted around Milan previously, but I think now we've James in the UK. I think London's very suited to this.
Yeah,
there's a lot of office to resi opportunities
in
some good areas actually. And so that's pretty exciting. So,
and they have a much different, I mean, I know that the planning rules are different, but they have a much different attitude to things like this too when it comes to converting, because in the UK you can convert an office to other uses without planning permission in some cases.
Permitted use. Yeah.
Which is a real, like, it seems to be a much more forward-looking attitude.
I presume there will be issues like, it's never simple.
Yeah, they have NIMBYs too, right? They're everywhere.
But they seem to have embraced co-living as the main thing.
Yeah.
They have new guidelines for London, which are not far away from what we're building in Ireland, actually. A bit more sensible around the dining lounge space, but a similar enough concept.
Yeah.
And I think we could definitely bring our expertise and our learnings from Dublin over there and build some cool kit, hopefully.
What about the appetite, like from capital providers? What's the appetite there from investors? Do people want this? Are they? I mean, absolutely, I know everyone talks about beds and sheds, right? It's like,
I've got a great strategy no one's thought about. Beds and sheds.
Beds and sheds. But this is kind of it's not that common, right? I mean, I know it's in the UK, but it's not that common.
No, it isn't.
Is there a good appetite out there from investors for it?
There is, absolutely, yeah. Look, there's a bit of education like anything, but a lot of investors are looking for alternative bed strategies which give them a slightly better yield on cost, particularly in the current interest rate environment.
Yeah.
Most probably why we're seeing a lot of sort of all things, hotels and student at the moment, and less resi because it's just yield and cost is shocking.
Yeah.
And co-living gives you that. So, and then for us, having the operation expertise from Ireland and able to show them what our tenant looks like, how long they stay for, how much it costs to run the building, that takes a lot of the mystery out of it. Because then it's just, well, this is just a bed strategy. with a higher yield and cost.
Yeah.
I can get comfortable around all this stuff because guys have all the data, and off you go. So that bit is not difficult.
A bit easier. Your strategy then, do you see it focused on the co-living thing in the UK or maybe in Europe, or do you have a wider plan with your platform to have it across different living sectors?
Yeah, I would love to extend into traditional apartments, PRS, BTR, whatever you want to call them. I think that would be a natural move for us.
Good cross-selling too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, someone's coming to the end of their 1 year in Rathmines House.
Yeah.
And you're going, you can extend in Rathmines House, or here's a 1-bedroom apartment in Dundrum.
Yeah.
So I think there's great synergies there.
Yeah, there would be. Yeah.
So that would have been my Irish strategy as we were going and building the co-living. Unfortunately, massive viability issues currently in residential. So a pin will have to be put in that for the time being.
Yeah. And what about like nursing homes or senior care?
So we're in nursing homes.
Okay, all right. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we're building a platform there as well.
Okay. How's that? Because you read a lot in the paper about, receiverships and companies. How are you also doing the operational side of that? Well,
we have an operational team which is separate to us.
Okay.
Guys we trust to know, Ethos Care, who are doing a fantastic job.
Okay, all right.
So we built that though from scratch, brought people with nursing home expertise together. And we worked with them and we brought in the capital then to back it as well. So we'll be at target is 1,500 beds and we're, I'd say we're over 1,000 now anyway, yeah.
Wow. And good business people are still getting old.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not changing.
Yeah. And look, it's a space that, again, has had its issues.
Yeah.
I think once you're focused on the resident and care and build from there, you can do it properly.
Yeah. Are you developing them from scratch? Or
like a lot of things in Ireland, you can mainly buy them for less than you can build them.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Yeah.
It's such a that alone is such an issue for society.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm going to leave that there. I could go into that for ages.
No, but it's true. I mean, that interview I gave a couple last week, I was trying to explain to Killian Woods, like we have apartment buildings that are 5 years old that are not worth what it would cost to build them today.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's insane. Yeah. Exactly. Nothing gets built.
I mean, they're modern, A-rated, and we couldn't do it today.
No, exactly. Yeah. And so it's the same in nursing homes. In Dublin, you can marginally build them, but we are building one in Dublin at the moment.
Yeah.
But we're more doing it because we want that Dublin presence. The returns that are so it is the lowest returns of our portfolio. The one we're building, the one we're taking development risk on, not the one we're buying and plugging in. And like you buy some you buy off receivers, some you buy off people who've run them very well, but just are the time of life when they want to retire or whatever. And COVID, I think, knocked a lot out of those sort of owner operators. But the lowest returns, in our portfolio are the one we're building. So
upside down stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. And so we're retrofitting a lot in that as well, which is an area of expertise we have from the Georgian pre-63. So so we're doing that. Senior care, I think, is a very interesting space, and it's kind of amalgamate a lot of those sort of expertise we have from the residential side and then from the clinical side and nursing homes. Again, though, we've a complete lack of inflexibility in our planning system. There's one size fits all again. We have this is an apartment, and of course they'll say to you, oh, well, if you go to the planning authority, they might allow you do this. But you're like, but I don't have to go, I have to buy the site, go talk to them. They go, no, we're not allowing you to do that.
Yeah.
When you're building senior accommodation, it's a lot of one beds. And then it's amenity space.
Yeah.
That's what gets built internationally.
And they have to be designed a bit differently, right?
Exactly.
The bathrooms and everything have to be designed for people of an older care. And then you can't transform that into something for someone who's 30 afterwards. So there needs to be a designated class.
Yeah.
And they've been talking about this for 10 years.
I know.
We had a site in Dalkey years ago, and it was back when the things weren't really going, that well. It was hard to get planning. We thought, maybe senior care, it would be ideal, right? It's like Chimney Pot's very mature area. 10 years have passed.
Nothing. Yeah. So actually, I have a good table which shows in Germany all the different things you can build, and it includes all that. Obviously you have your regular apartments, your senior apartments, you have your micro apartments, you have your co-living. In Ireland, we have an apartment which is meant to suit everyone from the age of, say, 21 to 80.
Regardless of your financial circumstances.
Regardless of financial circumstances, or your time of life where people just need different things.
Yeah.
And again, on the senior care bit, like lots of loneliness, lots of social isolation.
Yeah.
Imagine having those people living in lovely one-bed apartments.
Because they're not people that need to go to a nursing home.
No.
They're just people that maybe are on their own a lot of the time.
Exactly. But they'll have a trip or fall button where the concierge will come up to them and say, "Oh, you're not okay. Now I'll ring the doctor," or whatever. You know, you can have varying levels of clinical care in them.
Yeah,
and it even to a degree as well. It allowed, say, one partner is quite ill, and the other is perfectly healthy,
and they could stay together.
They can stay together. Yeah. So there's so many advantages to it. But again, we just can't grasp that nettle.
I will rant on that. So that's a dereliction of duty on behalf of policymakers to not have something like that in place.
Absolutely.
Like you're just letting people down there.
Yeah.
Because people would build that stuff, right?
Of course they would.
It's like it's a guaranteed market segment.
Yes.
Everyone gets old.
Exactly. And by the way, other massive advantage, we obviously talked about all the empty nesters.
Yeah.
And all
you
the
free
family
up the
homes.
houses, right?
You free up all the homes.
I know, but like you'd be blue in the face telling people the housing, the housing ladder.
Yeah.
There's two types. There's the one like you want to buy your house and get more valuable, but the housing ladder is stages of life.
Yeah.
But there's just anyway, there's no point. I asked you here because I wanted to talk about co-living, right? And we have done that. But what I kind of want to get to is, all right, so there's a multi-strand question here. Do you think there's any possibility of the ban being reversed, right? And rather, I assume the answer to that is yes. But what's your pitch? Why should it be reversed? Do you think that there's a political off-ramp for the government with this?
Yes, I do. Well, first thing they should do, they have a report from the Department of Housing, which is very pro co-living, as I said. It was a report provided to Darragh O'Brien. He took option 4.
Yeah.
So they can start with that, okay? So this is coming from within the department, okay? And I also think there's a political off-ramp in that there's a certain amount built and they can go and say, well, we don't like this, we like that. So they need to engage with industry, something they're not great at. They can also then look at what's happening internationally. So within all that, there is definitely a way forward. I think I've spoken about the benefits of it. It's a stage of life product, which has massive benefits in terms of the socioeconomic system within our larger cities, okay? We draw a lot of people to them, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
We've a lot of multinationals hiring people from all over the world, and they should not be living in hotels or, the like, which they are.
Yeah.
From Dublin to Cork to Galway. So it provides a great landing pad there. So it's definitely needed. It definitely has international acceptance, and we just need to get over the populist angle that was preached about it. And the way to do that is to educate people. And you educate people by showing international example and showing what has been on a positive sense delivered in Ireland. I'm not saying every co-living development is positive or well done, but there is enough evidence there to go, this is what we want.
Yeah. Well, because not every residential development is well done or is positive either. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Nothing is perfect, but it just, like when you put it in the context of it's the only thing that's been banned by ministerial order.
And sorry, to hit another point here, to hit our 50,000 units, we are going to have to increase density. And to increase density, we're going to have to allow things like co-living and other flexible, high density accommodation.
And even
models.
then, right?
Even then, it's. But look, everyone derided Owen Murphy. 2018, we were building 2,000 apartments. He tried and did some very good things. We got to about 10, 11,000.
And going up.
Yeah. Now we're going the other way since
because they went fucking with it, right? Like,
exactly.
And this is the thing that drives me crazy. When they brought in, say, the RPZ, the rent control, when they brought that, it was just starting to get hard for us to let apartments. Right?
Yes.
We were starting to see a bit of vacancy.
Yes.
Right. And they're like, now is the time to halt construction when we're just getting to the point where rents are flatlining. And then they just sent them back. I mean, actually, they think that this is the funny thing. They always think that it's like greedy developers. RPZ was the best thing that could have happened to a lot of people because it choked off supply.
Well, for developers in particular.
Yeah, and it drove rents up.
Yeah.
Now, it was very short term because now the developers are screwed because we can't build anything.
Yeah.
But, for that brief period, actually assets that were under construction already, Orpy said was fantastic.
Absolutely.
Because it choked off future supply and there's no competition. And now we're running at 99% occupancy. And
exactly. And only going to get worse, by the way. Like there's actually the end of the Owen Murphy era, particularly in the city centre, if you have look what's going on East Wall, etc., will be delivered over the next sort of 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
After that, there is nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
It is going to, obviously, presuming the economy is on the same track, it is going to be an absolute mess.
I actually don't believe that people fully, we always say that all the time. And the problem with the property industry, we just talk to each other. We all live in a bubble. I don't think it's well understood just how little construction is going to be ongoing in a year's time.
Absolutely. Particularly apartments.
Really bad.
Yeah. Sorry, unless it's government backed, LDA or whatever, and sorry, that's even run into a speed bump recently. So,
well, that's another thing. The LDA, they're able to buy apartments cheaper than they can build them. And yet the government solution appears to be pour money into the LDA to build more. It's just more and more and more money every year. Same result.
Yes. Into inefficient solutions.
Why not turn around and change it? To me, it seems like co-living is such an easy win. Just do it.
Yeah.
What's
It's not going to take over the world, by the way.
No.
It was 0.05% of bed space, as I said. If that gets up to, 0.1% or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it is essential, I believe, for our future sort of economic prosperity in terms of attracting young professionals to these cities because, where are they going to land? Where are they going to live?
Okay, look, I've kept you here for an hour, Peter. Final thoughts on anything, really. And then I have the magic wand.
Okay.
You can have your magic wand if you want it.
Okay.
Now, the rules.
Yes.
Because you have people going on a 10-minute magic wander, right?
Okay.
It's one thing.
One thing.
You can change one thing. Now, it can
be co-living, obviously.
You can change co-living if you want to use it on that. But
okay. Wow. Apartment size standards.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And what would you do to them? Make them smaller?
I'd make them smaller in city centre locations, specific locations. Yeah. I think we've got to embrace the micro apartment, really.
Yeah.
If you really want to produce affordable, you got to look what they do in Germany, and Germany says it has a rental crisis, but you can still get an apartment for €800 in a city centre,
Right.
But those apartments are pretty basic, by the way, to say, look at pictures online. They're not, They
don't even come with kitchens, a lot of them.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
But, if you want to provide, affordable accommodation, and not just in the bang in the middle of Dublin, but in its suburbs as well, you got to look at size standards. Now, it's not for every unit, but again,
having some options, right?
Having some options.
So how small is a micro apartment?
They start at 25 square meters, but they don't have then the bells and whistles of as much amenity and communal space.
So 25 square meters is
25 to 40 square meters. That's what size they are.
Okay, so let's take the smallest one, right? Because people want to be alarmist. 25 square meters, king size bed?
Yeah.
Bathroom with a shower and no bath.
Yeah. Full kitchen. Dining table and chairs and a couch. You fit all that in 25 square meters easy.
Okay.
We fit all that into 23 square meters in Rathmine's house.
Yeah. Okay.
And perfectly livable spaces.
Yeah. And if you had a lot of those, and it's not saying every apartment needs to be tiny.
No.
But just some of them need to be tiny.
Exactly. And we're not saying that
you can have big ones as well.
And we're not saying we want to a family in there.
No.
But half the housing list in Dublin is single people, half the housing list.
Yeah.
So that's completely inefficient. You could really, and then you build them in the right places and everyone's focused. They're so focused on what's in the building. What's outside the building?
Yeah, that gets ignored altogether.
What's the street like? What's on the street? Where's the nearest park? Are we not meant to live as communities? Are we just meant to be in this little, stay in here in my apartment, it's nice and big, I'm not going out to talk to anyone?
Yeah.
Whereas they've totally different idea in the continent. You go, everyone, Paris is always my example.
Yeah.
Minimum size, 25 square meters, the best living city in Europe, probably in the world.
In the world, I would say, in the world.
And everyone goes, in every corner in Paris, there's a boulangerie and there's a cafe. And
I wonder why.
I wonder why. Yeah. Exactly, because it's the highest density in Europe.
Yeah.
It's not tall buildings, by the way.
No, 5-6 stories, right?
Exactly,
in most cases, right? That's what they are.
Yeah. But You telling me that living a 25 square meter, like well kitted out 25 square meter apartment in Paris is not a great place to live?
Yeah.
So
you heard it here first. We should all move to Paris. You don't have to convince me. I fucking love that place. And like you say, there's bakeries everywhere. There's parks everywhere. There's stuff to do. You read any books? I didn't tell you about this in advance, so it's really not fair to spring it on you.
I do read a lot of books, yeah.
What's the last book or last good book that you read?
The Robert Fabry series called Alexander's Legacy. And when Alexander the Great died, he didn't name an heir. He said, to the greatest. So all his generals basically started fighting each other for the different territories.
Hunger Games,
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So Ptolemy obviously ended up with Egypt, for example.
Okay.
Syracuse ended up with, Persia. And the Syracusan Empire came out of that. So the number of great sort of ancient world empires came up out of it. Because Alexander in his mad rampage through the East had conquered all these places.
Yeah.
And kind of drove on and left a fella in charge. And then they broke it up, and there was a massive, basically, Greek civil war for a number of years, and they all ended up with their little patch afterwards.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So like a deconsolidation.
Yes, exactly.
I wonder, did they have co-living? I mean, they probably basically did have co-living.
Of course they did.
There was no other options.
A country village is co-living, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, that's... Yeah.
All the little cottages.
Yeah.
Local pub.
Yeah.
Is your communal space, you know?
Yeah.
Like... That is actually, everyone says we've lost that sense of community. You wonder why,
Yeah, because we're all inside on our phones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In Deliveroo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Peter, thanks so much. There's a lot in there. I just think, I just don't understand it. It's such a stupid thing to kowtow to a few newspaper articles about a name calling. I mean, it's like the name calling with the vulture fund. It's the same old thing again. One section of people decide they're against something. They start name calling and mudslinging. Government panic.
Yeah.
Press the panic button.
Yeah.
Everyone suffers.
Exactly.
Down the line.
So like, I don't, that surprised. It's not like we've heard this story.
Yeah. A million times,
unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it'll turn around and change, because we do need these things. We need different things. We need senior living. We need co-living. We need everything for stages of life. And I wish you all the best. I look forward to having a visit down to Cork Street. I think that's going to be, you're coming to see that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's your target. I mean, I know not you, but like it's targeted to people like you.
If they were around in the 90s.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. There you go.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Peter, thanks a lot. We'll leave it there.
Thanks very much, guys.
Good man.
That was great.
The Build is produced by Carrie Fernandez and me, Rick Larkin. Music is by Cass.